Now let's look at the different lymphoid cells that we will have that are going to be in lymphoid tissue and lymphoid organs. The most prominent one are going to be the lymphocytes, literally cyte, lymph cells. So our lymphocytes, we have three different types of lymphocytes: B cells, T cells, and natural killer cells. We will talk about each of them more when we start talking about immunity, but for now, know those are the three types of lymphocytes that we have. Lymphoid cells, though, are going to include other cells like macrophages and other phagocytic cells. So a macrophage is going to be our big eater, but neutrophils, dendritic cells, all of those are also going to be phagocytic cells that are going to have a very important role to take when we talk about immunity. Now remember, I said lymphoid tissues is basically a very broad term for any kind of connective tissue that's going to have lots of lymphocytes or lymphoid cells that are going to be associated with it. The first lymphoid tissue we're going to talk about are going to be lymphoid nodules. Lymphoid nodules are going to be areolar tissue that's densely packed with lymphocytes. You're going to have them in places like your respiratory mucosa. They're also going to be present in your digestive, urinary, and reproductive tracts. The lymphoid nodules that we look at are oftentimes going to be housed in your lymph nodes and your other lymphoid organs like the spleen. One of the major characteristics of these lymphoid nodules is the fact that they are going to have germinal cells. Germinal cells, like shown in here, are going to be zones where the nodule is going to contain dividing lymphocytes. Those cells are going to be very important for when you're trying to actively fight against pathogens or break down debris. And then notice you'll have mucous membranes here because oftentimes the lymphoid nodules are going to be associated with the mucus. So it's embedded right within that mucous membrane of those different organ systems. Now, if you think about it, it makes sense for the lymphoid nodules to have this particular area associated with mucous membranes. A lot of the point of mucous membranes is to act as a sticky area where you can catch pathogens, bacteria, pieces of things, and as they're stuck there, you're going to be able to clean them out. So having this germinal center right there in that lymphoid nodule, right next to the mucous membranes, is a good thing. Now we're going to look at tonsils. Tonsils are basically large lymph nodes, and they're specifically going to be within the walls of your pharynx. So your pharynx is going to be your throat. There are three parts to your pharynx. It's going to be behind your nasal cavities, behind your mouth, and then down here right before you're going to get into your larynx region. So you have three different tonsils that we're going to have to be able to identify, so make sure you are able to label those. You'll have your pharyngeal tonsil. Pharyngeal tonsil is going to be found right above where the nasal cavity is going to be, so that's going to be in your nasopharynx. Palatine tonsils you're going to have on either side on the back of your mouth, so if you're ever looking in the back of your throat, that's the palatine tonsils that you're looking at. It's on either side of your palate, that's why it's palatine. They're going to be on the inferior margin of your oral cavity. And then your lingual tonsils, you have two of them. The lingual tonsils are going to be deep to the epithelium covering the base of your tongue. So lingual, like linguistics and speech. So those are going to be associated with your tongue. So those are just large lymphoid nodules that are housed specifically within your pharynx. And again, this makes sense. All of your face area is open to the outside environment. So we're going to be catching a lot of the junk that's coming in through our body into those areas. And so we'll have those lymphoid nodules right there with their germinative cells, with their germinal centers that have all those lymphocytes in there to help fight against and eat all of those different pathogens that could be coming in. Now your tonsils are going to have a nice little way of going in and cleaning a lot of that up, but you can live without your tonsils. In fact, a lot of people will have their tonsils removed because if you have a tendency to catch a lot of things in your tonsils, you're going to get very inflamed, and they get inflamed because you start dividing and creating all those different cells, those lymphocytes in there because you found something. Well, if your tonsils get so inflamed and you get tonsillitis, you can actually block your passageway for air, and it can become dangerous because they get too large and too inflamed. So sometimes they'll go in and surgically remove them, and generally they're referring to the palatine tonsils at that point, because look at where the palatine tonsils are. If these get inflamed, they could close off this area right here and block off this area, and this is where your air is supposed to be coming in. So having that happen too often, you can have those removed so they're not going to cause that issue of getting inflamed and possibly blocking airflow to that area. Some people have the pharyngeal tonsil removed as well. The pharyngeal tonsil is also referred to as your adenoids. So notice where it is located right behind your nasal cavity. If you are laying down and you have very large adenoids, this adenoid could flop down and kind of cover this opening right in here. And so if someone is laying down and air is trying to pass through here, the adenoids could be flapping back and forth, and that could be causing snoring. So that could also cause some issues with airflow as well. So you can also have your adenoids removed. Adenoid is just another term for pharyngeal tonsil. Continuing with our lymphoid tissues. So with our lymphoid tissues, these are going to be all specialized areas within different body systems that you're going to have what are referred to as mucosa-associated lymphatic tissue, or MALT. So MALT is going to be a generic term for any of those mucus layers that you have that will have lymphatic tissue, which will have lots of lymphocytes within it. Now, I'm not going to make you know all these different divisions within the mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, but you can see we have different divisions based on the different systems that they're going to be within, and the type of immunization that you get depends on where that infection tends to occur. So they have different routes to immunize you, which we'll talk about more what immunizations are later. So moving from lymphoid tissues, now we're going to look at lymphoid organs. So our lymph node is going to be the one we're talking about first, because that's the one you're going to find throughout the body. So remember, those are going to be at strategic places along your lymphatic vessels, and their whole purpose is to take the lymph into it, clean that lymph up, and then send it back out all the way back into your blood within your subclavian veins. Now, when you look at the lymph node in particular, it is going to be physically separated from the surrounding tissues by a capsule on the outside. So it makes it a distinctive organ because of that physical separation. So you can see the capsule right in here. Now notice you will have afferent vessels, which means they're taking the lymph in, and these little flaps right here are going to be the valves that we talked about earlier. So the lymph is going to come in and it's going to go into this lymph node area. So within the lymph node itself, you do have the capsule on the outside, but then you're going to have different sections within the lymph node. They're going to be divided by trabeculi, like the trabeculi of your bone are going to have these little divisions where they're separating the different tissues that are going to be in there. The tissues are going to be referred to as cortex. So we have cortex in here. Notice our cortex is going to have a lot of B cells in it. B cells were a type of lymphocyte. When you look at the paracortex, so paracortex is going to be going around it, that's where your T cells are going to live, another type of lymphocyte. And then you're going to have the medulla, which is going to be this section right in here, the middle section, and that's where your B cells and macrophages will live. So you have all of these different types of phagocytic cells that are just waiting for lymph to come in and trap any of the pathogens, debris, pieces of pathogens as it's traveling through there and the cells are attacking it. Then that lymph is going to then be pushed back out through the efferent vessel, and then again we're taking that pathway going right back to either the thoracic duct or that right lymphatic duct, so you can dump into the subclavian veins. Now, if you go to the doctor and you have some sort of infection, a lot of times the first thing that they're going to do, especially if it seems like some sort of respiratory infection, is they're going to palpate up and down your neck. They're feeling for these cervical lymph nodes. And if your cervical lymph nodes are inflamed and enlarged, that means this germinal center is highly active, which means some sort of pathogen or debris has been found within the lymph, and then your cells are going to say, oh, there's something in here we need to fight against, and then they will start dividing and creating more and more. So that actually causes the lymph nodes to enlarge, and then that enlargement means there's some sort of activity happening in there because something was found that it needs to fight against. So when we're in terms of looking at the function of your lymph nodes, they're going to be, number one, filtering lymph. 99% of any antigen that's going to come into it is going to be killed by the pathogens that are engulfing it and any kind of debris that's going to be in there. One of the other things that we're doing is we're trying to find specific pathogens to fight against. And so that's going to oftentimes happen here in that lymph node, where we find that specific one we want to fight against, and then we're going to tell our body that says, this is the one thing we need to fight. Let's mount a defense against this one specific thing. So the lymph nodes are super important because that's where you're activating your immune response. That's where you're first finding the pathogens and alerting the whole body that this is what you're going to need to attack. All right, our last two lymphoid organs, we're going to talk about the thymus and then the spleen. The thymus is going to be sitting right here in that mediastinum area of your thoracic cavity. So it's sitting superior to and anterior to the heart. So it's sitting right up here. It's divided into a right and a left lobe. It's pink and it's grainy, and it is very active as a child. And then once you hit puberty, it starts to atrophy and become inactive. We'll talk about why that is later on. The two parts of the two different lobes that you have for the thymus are going to be divided by a septum, and then you're going to have little lobules inside of it that are going to be the functional units of the thymus. So you're going to have a cortex and a medulla just like we have in most of the other organs that we're looking at. The thymus function is to regulate T cell development and maturation. So remember, T cells and B cells were part of our lymphocytes. The T cells are going to divide within the cortex region within that thymus, and then they're going to mature and then migrate into the medulla. The mature T cells will then leave the thymus by the blood vessels. The function of that thymus is to create a library of T cells. Those library of T cells are going to be used to fight against potentially any kind of pathogen that you might be able to have. So while you're young, you're building that library up, and then you're creating all these cells that are made and they sit inactive until that particular pathogen comes into your body. And then once that particular pathogen comes into your body, then those cells will become activated, and then we're able to start an immune response to it. So it's very important as a child that you're going to have that large library to create those cells from. As you get older, your immune response is going to decrease over time because your thymus is going to atrophy and be replaced by fatty tissue, so it's not going to work as well. Now onto your spleen. Your spleen is your largest lymphoid organ. And as opposed to the other lymphoid organs and tissues that we've been talking about, the spleen is actually used to filter your blood rather than straight lymph. So the spleen itself, you can notice here's your stomach, here's your liver. The spleen is going to be right here next to the stomach, and it's actually going to be connected to it with a ligament. It is going to have a fairly fragile capsule on the outside of it, and it is going to connect to both the diaphragm and your left kidney. So we have a good blood supply that's coming in here. So you can see in the hilum, which is that area where everything's coming in, the splenic artery and veins that are in here, as well as lymphatic vessels. The spleen is going to be one of those organs that's going to have large sinusoids. So blood is going to be coming in through the blood supply, and then it's going to dump into the sinusoids. Within the sinusoids, you're going to have free macrophages that are in there monitoring the blood to make sure that they can find any kind of pathogen or debris that they need to get rid of. The spleen is easily torn though, because it is going to have a fairly fragile capsule on the outside. If you rupture your spleen, you have those large sinusoids of blood that are sitting in there. So when it tears, if there's a trauma to your left side, it can cause some serious internal bleeding because of all the blood that's going to be housed within it. You can remove your spleen, so if there is some sort of trauma where that is happening, they would remove your spleen through a splenectomy. And then you're going to be more prone to bacterial infections though, because you're not going to have that housing for the blood that's going to be patrolled by all those white blood cells specifically in that area. So it is your largest lymphoid organ. It's filtering your blood. It's also a great place to store your iron that you're going to need to make your red blood cells hemoglobin. And it's also a blood reservoir, so it's going to hold an excess amount of blood for you. In case of an event of bleeding, you can always access the blood that's in your spleen to supplement the blood that is missing.